Welcome to the Asbestos Knowledge Empire.
What does asbestos management mean to you?
I used to really struggle with the asbestos management at my site, but now it's a breeze.
It used to be really expensive. I was paying loads, but now I've got my asbestos power team in place. It's so much easier.
Asbestos can be a pain in the arse if not handled right.
We had to stop the job because asbestos was discovered. Now we don't have that problem.
Asbestos management is easier than you think. Asbestos management. Be proactive, not reactive. Think about asbestos first, not last.
And now your hosts, best-selling authors and asbestos experts, Ian Stone and Neil Munro.
Hi, welcome to the Asbestos Knowledge Empire. My name's Neil Munro.
Hi, I'm Ian Stone, and today we're out on location.
Yes.
We're on site. We're in it's a 3-bed house. It's an ex-local authority property. And the reason we're here, we wanted to highlight some of the asbestos that can be identified and found within these types of properties. Now, this is going to be useful if you're a homeowner looking to do up your own property, or an investor who's looking to purchase properties to either flip them, do them up and flip them, or do them up and then rent them out. Because I think a lot of the time, asbestos, it's never really thought about that much in the home.
Yeah, I think when people think about asbestos, they often associate it with larger buildings like warehouses, schools, hospitals, etc., and factories. But asbestos was really heavily used in some of the domestic market and really used on quite large scales within the local authority. So we've taken this example for you today, and we're going to walk you around the house and do our very best to describe exactly what you need to be looking out for. So, to take you through the first one, we're now standing in the hallway. It's quite a small hallway, and actually it's got doors leading off into the living room, the kitchen diner, the toilet, and there's a couple of cupboards in there. So as I'm standing here by the front door, I'm looking up to the ceiling, and on the ceiling there is a stipple effect coating. It's a decorative coating on the ceiling, and in the asbestos industry we refer to that as a textured coating. So it's a textured coating, and that's actually got an asbestos content in it. The asbestos content is generally around the 2 to 5%. So again, if you are looking at ceilings as you're looking at these properties, always look out if it has got a textured or decorative coating on it, because that could contain asbestos. Now, as I'm looking down from the ceiling, the doors that lead off to the other rooms, they've got like infill panels below, so it's above the door but below the ceiling. We refer to them as infill panels. Now, in this property, they've actually got a bit of a mixture. They've got a glass one, so it's a glazed infill above the door. There's some cork, which is covering one of the doors. And then the one that's leading into the kitchen/dining room is actually an asbestos insulating board. Okay, so the asbestos insulating board, generally speaking, the removal of that type of material has to be done by a licensed asbestos contractor. So again, that's additional costs that you have to get a specialist contractor in to deal with that.
And the reason for that is because it's a high risk material. It's high asbestos content, highly friable if damaged. So that's why it needs to be an asbestos licensed contractor.
As we're walking around this hallway, we've got 2 cupboards. I'm going to open the door to the gas cupboard. Okay, so as I'm looking down within this cupboard, again, it's got plastered walls and the texture coating to the ceiling. As I look down to the floor, I can see some purple floor tiles, which are a thermoplastic type of material. Now, these have got quite a high asbestos content when it comes to floor coverings. They're usually around the sort of 20%, 25% asbestos content. And these tiles are actually glued down to the floor, to the actual concrete floor, with an asbestos bitumen glue, which is a real sort of nuisance in these types of properties because it's really, really hard to get up. As you can imagine, the glue to stick the tiles down is never going to be easy to get up. And it's generally that to remove that material, you have to get a grinder in to grind the surface to actually get rid of that. And as I'm looking over at the gas meter, I can see it's got copper pipes running off from the actual gas meter. And right at the top of the gas meter, just where the valve is, there is an asbestos gasket. Okay, so the actual gasket that is holding the flange on the gas meter has got an asbestos content as well. So that's that cupboard. And as I walk across to the next cupboard, it's an old air heater cupboard. So these types of properties used warm air heating There's a warm air heating system, which basically there was a boiler which generated the warm air, and it blew it through channels through the house, which came out into each individual room through metal vents. So as I've opened the door, right on the back of the actual door itself is an asbestos insulating board panel again. And the reason why this would be here is it's to give the actual cupboard door some fire protection. Because as I said, the old boiler heater would have been in there, obviously generating a bit of heat, and that's to give it some protection there. And as I actually look into the cupboard, the actual warm air heater has been removed. However, on the right-hand side wall, there is an asbestos insulating board panel, which probably would have covered the wall where the heater sort of rests against it. Okay, so that's that cupboard there. So next we're going to walk through into the dining room / kitchen.
Yes, so in this, like Neil said, it's a dining room / kitchen. It's a quite a large dining room, and then the kitchen runs off at an L shape. So in here, the kind of construction of the property runs through similar. However, the difference is when I look up at the ceiling in here, it's a brand new plaster finished effect on the ceiling. However, we've had an asbestos survey done on this property, so we know that above this plaster finish is the actual asbestos texture coating that's the same as the hallway that we were just in. Again, it's kind of, to look at it, it looks brand new. You wouldn't think there was anything there. So if I was doing any works in here, any electrical cabling, any pipe work, runs or anything like that for the heating system, then I'd have to take that into consideration. Now, again, on the floor, we've got a modern modern non-asbestos floor covering. However, when you peel that back, we know that there's asbestos tiles underneath, and there's the asbestos bitumen as well. And that runs all the way through into the kitchen. And the floor tiles have actually been removed in part through here. However, directly underneath, what you can see is the full remnants of the black bitumen. Like Neil said, it's a real pain to get rid of, to remove in its entirety. Now, over in the corner, it's kind of like the back side of the cupboard that Neil spoke about. We've got one of the warm air vents that would blow the warm air into this room. Now, I know from experience that within the wall cavity itself, that will be lined with asbestos, either cement or insulating board. And then over here, when we walk in through to the kitchen, above the actual kitchen door itself, there's like a header panel, an infill panel. Again, we know that one to be asbestos containing. Now, what we've got in the kitchen, again, there's a new section of plasterboard that's been put up. So to the untrained eye, you could be forgiven to walk in and think there's no asbestos here because it's literally just a plasterboard ceiling. However, it's only been 3/4 boarded, and there's a section at the side that's got asbestos texture coating on it again. However, the difference within this room to the others are just literally straight stippled effect. In here, whoever installed this has done kind of a swirly circle pattern with stipples. Now, again, it looks different to the stippled effect out there, but the asbestos, it is still asbestos containing. So it doesn't matter about the finish or the coating itself. It's what's actually within the product. And then finally in the kitchen, we've got it's a stainless steel sink. Now, underneath the stainless steel sink, we've got two pads. There's one under the drainer and one under the sink itself. And they're both black, probably 4 or 5 inch square pieces of bitumen material. Now they're there for kind of soundproofing, for when you launch something into the sink, it doesn't make a hell of a clatter and a bang. However, what happens to these over time, when hot water and all the rest of it gets poured into the sink, they generally tend to deteriorate and start to fall apart, and then they'll fall off onto items within the cupboard. So again, it's another area where there's asbestos containing materials. So here we go. We're going to walk through into the lounge, the living room.
Okay, so now we're now into the living room. And again, as I'm looking at this room, we've got an asbestos texture coating, which is the stipple effect again to the ceiling. We've also got the warm air heater. So there's a vent, and again, that's going to be lined with asbestos insulating board. As I peel back a bit of the carpet, there's a lovely grey carpet colour. Underneath the asbestos vinyl tiles, which were exactly the same that were in the hallway and the cupboards. And again, it's got the asbestos bitumen below. In this living room, we've got parts of the staircase, and to the underside of the staircase to the first floor, we've got an asbestos insulating board panel. So it's right on the underside underneath, and that's obviously been installed over the years to give the property or the staircase some fire protection, because if there was a fire to happen in the lounge or living room, the asbestos insulating board would protect the stairs so the occupants could safely get out in the event of a fire. So that's it for the living room / lounge, and we're going to walk upstairs to take you through the first floor areas. Okay, so at the top of the stairs, we're now in the landing. Okay, and the landing has got, again, the asbestos texture coating. And in fact, the asbestos texture coating is present within all of the rooms. So in the bedrooms, so we've got 1, 2, 3 bedrooms, and we've got a bathroom. And then we've got some landing cupboards, which have also got the asbestos texture coating in as well. As I walk across the landing, I'm looking up at the doors which lead off into the bedrooms and the bathroom, and we've got an asbestos insulating board infill panels, the same as what I described downstairs. So again, above the door but below the ceiling, the little panels there, we've got asbestos insulating board. Okay, as I walk further down the actual landing, open up one of the cupboard doors. And again, this is probably a vent for the warm air heating system again, because to the floor, I've got a warm air vent, and that's surrounded by an asbestos insulating board panel. To the right-hand side corner, to the rear of this cupboard, protruding from the ceiling, we've got an asbestos cement downpipe. Okay, so that's that cupboard.
That downpipe actually runs up into the loft as well, and then it separates through the roof through an asbestos felt lining on the roof as well. I'm not going to climb up the ladder whilst we're doing a podcast.
I've just walked into what I'd say probably is the master bedroom, and you can tell it's got no carpet. That's why it's a bit more echoey in here. And this is, again, as Ian described downstairs, for the dining room, which is actually below this room. So maybe there might have been some sort of... a
bit of fire or something.
Oh, yeah. We've got a plaster finished ceiling. But again, we've sampled it, and it has got remnants of the former asbestos texture coating, which was present on there.
So that's kind of everything inside the property. I'm going to make my way down and out the front of the property to have a look and see what we've got out the front. So just bear with me for 1 second. So here we are on a lovely street. We're now out in the sunshine, thank God. So out the front of the property, we've got an asbestos cement verge undercloak that runs down the edge of the roof under the roof tiles. That's common on a lot of roofs. And then also on the entrance canopy itself is an asbestos cement lining to the ceiling above the canopy. Now, next to it, as you can see on lots of social housing properties and things like that, were bin cupboards. Now, within this bin cupboard, again, the asbestos cement lining runs through across the ceiling. Now, the canopy outside is painted, the canopy inside isn't. Sometimes they can be asbestos insulating board, that type of thing as well. And then also, just at low level, down on the course of brickworks, we've got the asbestos bitumen damp-proof course.
It's really protruding on this one.
It really is. I mean, it must be sticking out a good centimetre, overlapping out of the bricks.
Can you?
No, sometimes you really can't. They're either covered over with mortar, or they're just simply tucked too far back. But this one's really, really protruding. So that's the front of the property. Now the back of the property. What we've got out the back is there's asbestos soffit boards. They're asbestos insulating boards, soffit boards, running along underneath actual asbestos cement guttering and downpipes as well on the property. So there's a whole heap of asbestos within this property. Again, we can see the damp-proof course at the back at the low level, so that runs the full perimeter of this house.
So that basically just gives you a bit of an overview, a bit of a flavour of the types of asbestos materials that you can find in these domestic properties. I think you agree it's probably more than what you'd think, especially
Definitely.
on these types of local authority or ex-local authority properties. Okay, so I hope you felt that useful. We have made a video to accompany this podcast, so look out for that. We'll be sharing that across our social media platforms, so look out for that one. Okay, so that's it from us.
Remember, asbestos first, not last.